Hello, and welcome to the virtual Sundance ASCAP Music Café, where we're excited to be bringing you special editions of our ASCAP Screen Time conversations. I'm Amanda Schaffner from our ASCAP Screen team, and today I'm joined by the brilliant director, Phyllis Nagy, and the equally brilliant Isabella the Machine Summers, who have collaborated on the 2022 Sundance selection called Jane. Welcome to Phyllis and Isabella.
Hi,
Hello.
Phyllis. Nice to see you.
Hi, Isabella.
Thank you for having us, Amanda.
Yeah. Of course. So to set the stage for this conversation, and before we jump into the collaboration between the two of you, I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of background on the genesis of the project. Phyllis, what first drew you to the script, or did you already know the story of the Jane Collective?
What actually, Robbie Brenner, who's our, wonderful lead producer, sent me an earlier version of the script, and what actually hooked me was the journey that the central character takes, and the fact that one could address questions of choice, which really is what I think the film is about, with a political is personal approach, right? Rather than the other way around. So the Janes, who don't appear until about the 40-minute mark, are not the focus of the film, but we honor them and we make it clear that, women found other women as a means to provide safe harbor and comfort. And I don't want to give much away, so I'm speaking as vaguely as I can and still
as intriguingly as you can.
Yeah.
As well.
But also, what a beautiful thought. That's a beautiful thought.
And Isabella, when were you brought into the process as well? Did you come in when the script was still being kind of decided on, or did you already see footage? Or
I knew I
first
hadn't seen any footage, didn't know much about the project, but I knew what it was about, and I thought it would be an amazing opportunity to work with Phyllis.
Yes.
And also be a part of this incredible project. I think it's a story that, as a woman, is incredibly important.
Yes.
I think I've just said those words 7 times around in the same thing, but and it was an opportunity to kind of create a sort of scape with Phyllis, based in the late 60s, so it's a period piece, and just a great opportunity really on every level.
Our wonderful music supervisor, Willa Udell,
Yes.
introduced me, not to Isa, I mean, I'd known her work outside of film scoring, but as a film composer, I didn't. And it was Willa who sent me her work to say, hey, you might, I don't know, I have a feeling. And she was right.
Yeah, the feeling works out. So how did the two of you collaborate? Was everything virtual for the two of you? Were you ever in the same place at the same time? Or how did that process work?
Yeah, we were, Isa was in London or some other part of the UK, and I was here. We were in post-production, and we sent her a script, not a script. At some point we sent her a cut. And
that's right. I don't think I read the script before I saw anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so it's just going straight into the world.
And so while I was actually cutting the film, we were sending her footage, and she was working closely with the music editors at a certain point, and Willa, and then I would come on to give, general direction. We'd have little chats about that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how it went, more or less. I mean, we knew right away that what we wanted was, I think the first iteration of this was something like we want a score. I want a score that sounds like it could have been written at that moment in time, protest music, etc. Because we also have running alongside the score music by a source music from, let's just say, women who should be much better remembered.
Interesting.
Songs that should be much better remembered than they are in a lot of cases. And so the score and the source music work together in a way that sometimes people ask if that's source or score.
Oh, okay. So you were able to find that balance of like, it was never super obvious when you were in kind of one sound moving into another.
Right. I mean, there are little moments where you know that's not source music.
Yeah.
But by and large,
What a massive compliment, Phyllis.
I was gonna say
that is the biggest compliment ever. I mean, I think that's exactly it. It was a question of kind of like looking at the time period and you know, the ladies that Phyllis had selected as the source songs, and you know, fitting around it. And then I think we went through a couple of kind of like soundscape, some tonal, like complete ideas. There was a moment where I did just do like 20 minutes of protest rock, and we kicked it out because it was just too on the nose to have the whole thing in one, you know, as a score, to have the whole thing in one sound. And then we kind of lent into folk rock for a while. And then some of it just it found its way to being the simplest thing that Phyllis liked the sound of, so that's where we landed.
Well, it's interesting that you got that chance to have that exploration and then found that kind of moment where you're like, okay, we've locked it in now and it makes sense and it's really in service to the narrative.
It was such a the craziest thing, because we were all in a strange lockdown, and it, you know, there was a sort of kind of, you know, you can never really be connected when you're not sitting in a room with somebody working with them. I think there was a lot of posts going on. Phyllis was really busy. They were getting everything together, and so I was feeding music and then doing changes, feeding music, and then we were talking about it, selecting what we liked, finishing that, working on things, and then all of a sudden it just was done. And it was like the weirdest thing. It was kind of like, did that really even just happen? It was sort of
it was so strange. I mean, just what I learned, because I'm just somebody who sits and, you know, watches the whole thing and sees what the relationships are, right, among groups. What I learned is there should always be a direct line of communication between the director and the composer, because there's lots of well-meaning people who have opinions about, and they sometimes think they're helping and they're not. You know, it's like, let's just keep this simple. Exactly. You know, and I think that's a good thing for aspiring, I don't know, directors who are afraid to talk. I mean, I'm not afraid to talk to anyone, but I could have been. And, you know, especially if people are intimidated by music because they think it's a language they don't understand, right? You don't need to have you don't need to be well versed in music theory in order to have a conversation with a composer.
It's so nice to hear you say that too, because it you know, I think isn't it part of creating art to understand all aspects of it? Like to kind of be able to, like, if you want to be a visual person, I often think that, like, surely all art forms, including sound, come into that. And I find the same with creating music, right? Looking at paintings is really important, or you know, watching film and TV is really important. You know, it's like So it's interesting when people can't speak a language of what they want to hear. But Phyllis knew exactly what she wanted, and then changed her mind, and then knew exactly what she wanted again.
Yeah. I mean, you have to sort of roll with
it's
what's
like
going
painting
on.
a picture.
But you know, it is something. I think music is something that a lot of filmmakers, I dare say it, misunderstand. You know, how it works, what its use is for and that's because we're so used to seeing it used in a weird way in let's say Hollywood studio films, which the music dictates an emotion, and I think that kind of leads to trouble probably. You know, but we didn't have that going on here because no one wanted that.
Well, I love that you guys found this place where you could come together and sort of this, what I hear you speaking of is this very almost pure collaboration, and everything that you're talking about, you know, having the through lines together, and also being open to kind of all of these forms of art while you're kind of approaching this composing and this directing and kind of this filmmaking magic together. Being open to all of that really, I think, just supported the collaboration that you guys were building together.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, as you refine a cut, it becomes more and more clear. And we had almost, I mean, usually you have a lot of cooks in the kitchen for all of these things, and we didn't.
I know, that's what was bizarre. It was the simplest thing I've ever done, and it was my first film I've ever scored. So it's just like, it was very funny to go like, is this is how it goes?
No, not always.
It's like, I like this, but
yeah,
it's weird,
no.
but I like it.
But it was an indie film with a producer who, you know, let people get on with it. And also I listen to people, but like I have very strong opinions about where music should be, where it shouldn't be, and I don't care. Right? It's like, okay, the editor and I, which is another like key collaboration for the music to work, right? Your editor has to be on the same page, because they can sometimes not mess it up, but they can have a very different view of how the music should be working.
That's right.
And so luckily that didn't happen, and we spotted it, and it hardly ever changed. It was like, okay, this works. So we changed what we experimented when it made sense with the kind of music it was, but not for experimentation's sake, which I always think is a dangerous thing. If something works, it works. And there were cues that always worked, right? And we never changed them. We never, but then there were things that as you went through the film again and again, you thought, oh, wait, well, that is a matter of a tonal shift, or that needs less, it needs to be less busy. And then there was that one cue that there's a percussive cue. It's just drums, right? That we just like, I was watching it and I thought, oh my God, just see what the poor music editor, I said, just make this drums. And it was like, whoa. And then Isabella had to come in and, you know, make it work. But that's the kind of stuff that you hope you have the time and the space to do when you're working. And you rarely get that. I'm sorry to say, Isabella, but hopefully.
It was also interesting, the idea of it was funny because, that was right. I remember you had this idea of wanting something that just felt very percussive. And I sat at my, badly mic'd up drum kit in a very unprofessional space, and and worked with the drummer for like 2 hours, and we recorded a bunch of simple drums, and then it kind of got placed in a certain place in the movie, and then I went back and I was like, no, I've got to record it properly. And I think I went and used a proper studio and got a proper drummer, and we did the thing. And then Phyllis was like, I liked it better before. So it's interesting how, like, you know, the simplicity of just the idea is actually all Phyllis wanted in places, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and in other places it was much more, you know,
much bigger,
complex, and it needed to serve a particular function, the relative musical complexity, you know, relative to just some simple drums, right?
Yeah. Definitely we have that too.
Yeah.
You got it all. You guys have found that kind of film music magic, which I love to hear. I just want to thank both of you so much for spending time with us here at Screen Time. And also, I mean, honestly, listening to the two of you kind of break down not only this collaboration, but also these little moments of decision-making that you found has been super special for me. And I know it's going to resonate really well with the audience as well. So thank you both for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having us.